Hello, welcome to the programme, and amongst the motoring treats this week, the Nissan 200 SX. 200 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, and one of the last rear-wheel drive cars around. An instant recipe for success? Well, you'd think so, but it isn't. In fact, it depreciates faster than a falling piano, and it's been discontinued next year, but we're not going to let that put us off. And Joe checks out what is very much an undiscovered opportunity for a lot of motoring fun. Then from the land where biggest is best, particularly with butts and burgers, but also with cars, America, Ian Royle checks out the enormous four-wheel drive Tahoe. And I've had a bit of a four-wheel drive treat as well, because I was given a special drive in the world's fastest estate car. And I don't mean fast like a bit nippy up the motorway with a box of computers to sell in the back. I mean a very fast car. Oh yes, nice big boot. Plenty of room in there for me wellies. I do like estate cars. Oh yeah, plenty of room in the back, looks nice and comfy. And roof rails, full length. They'll be useful for my luggage box when I go camping. Nice. Who cares? 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 Who cares? We want things that really matter. Massive alloys, huge low-profile tyres, full-length skirts right along the side, big flared arches, massive grills. And best of all, with over 380 brake horsepower, yes, there is room for the kids in the back, but you could call this Daddy's Revenge. When I was a kid, I had a real hankering for a little red sports car. This is better because this is a bloody great big red sports car. I've actually no idea what this car is for. It's immensely powerful and it's an estate. Maybe it's aimed at like reps. Maybe it's reps revenge. I remember seeing a documentary in which we were told about the pecking order on the motorway, and if a GLX driver came up behind a GL driver, then the GL driver had to give way. Well, what are you going to make of this, boys? They're going to get out of the way, that's what. The more you look at the RS4, the more fascinating the numbers become. The engine, for a start, 2.7 litre, 2 turbochargers. It's a V6 and it produces 380 brake horsepower. That gives it an amazing 141 bhp per litre. Nearly all of that 380 brake horsepower generated by a fantastic engine goes straight to the road thanks to Audi's legendary Quattro four-wheel drive system, and the result, well, it is breathtaking. There's an amazing amount of mid-range. It's something like a peaky, wimpy little turbo engine. In third gear, there's huge grunt available. But let's face it, with all of that power, there really is not room on this country's roads to explore what the car can do. Certainly not safely, and certainly not legally. But I know of somewhere where we can. And Audi obviously agree that perhaps there isn't always enough room on the road, because this beneath me, this tarmac, is not just your ordinary tarmac, it's your Grand Prix tarmac. We're at Silverstone, the Grand Prix circuit, and they've brought us here to go around it in the RS4 with instructors. So I'm not talking to you anymore, I'm driving. Before we do anything else, I'm going to be taken around the track with my instructor Clive at a nice, slow and steady pace, which is good news because it's not too uncomfortable and I get a chance to see where I've got to go. I don't want to get lost. Take it away, Clive.
Okay, right. Coming into Lovefield here, this is a corner which is very important because it goes around forever in the day. So what we're looking at is the 22 board over there. Can you see that board on the outside of the track?
Yeah.
That box. We need to look well through a corner and look beyond the corner, so don't just look at the corner when you get to it.
First up, we were taken for a gentle and very useful spin around the track by an instructor with some handy points in coping with a car with this much power on what is still a very challenging circuit. The Silverstone Grand Prix circuit is 17 corners long. It's about 3.7 miles in length, and I've forgotten every single inch of it. So I'm going to have to remember it, Clive, which means you're going to have to explain it to me. Time for my first laps, and as soon as you take off, you realise no matter how wide the track might be, with this much power on tap, you've got to be very careful to keep it on the grey bits and out of the green.
This is our slowest corner we're coming to now, so this is Vale. I want to slow right down here now, down in gear 4 wing. Good.
It was quite a thrill taking such a powerful car around the Grand Prix circuit. I could almost hear the screaming of the F1 cars. Mind you, none of those are estates, and it's very easy to forget that this is still an estate car. Do you know, I'm still having difficulty seeing the point of this car. Yes, it's fast. Well, it's very, very fast indeed. But it's still an estate car, a £46,500 estate car that goes like a racing car. But it doesn't really matter. This is one of those cases where there doesn't need to be a point. It's just a bit of fun. Well, quite a lot of fun. There's also exclusivity, of course. If you pay that money, you'd be very unlucky if your neighbours turn out to have one as well, because there's only 400 in the country. But if all that's tempted you to buy one, you can't. They're all sold, all 400. So I'm going to play in this one while I can. I'll leave this, I think.
The coupe market has grown considerably over the last 10 years. Prices starting from only £14,000 going way up to almost £250,000 for the incredibly expensive Bentley Continental T. But for most people who want to buy into the market, they want a car with style, practicality and above all a healthy dose of performance. On paper, this, the Nissan 200SX, is very impressive. It offers 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds and a grand top speed of 146 miles an hour. It has all the equipment, all the machinery to put it on the enthusiast's most wanted list. The 2-litre turbocharged engine pumps out 197 bhp through the rear tyres, taking the hairy chest approach, front-engined rear drive, thus following the footsteps of the 70s superstar, the fairy dice favourite Ford Capri. From the front, the 200SX has a long stretch bonnet not unlike its very racy big brother, the Skyline. When you really push this car, it is serious fun. And of course, with all the power going through the rear wheels, then you do get a very different drive as you would to other coupes in its class. The steering is swift enough to react when the back end steps out, which it will do if you suffer from heavy right foot syndrome. Well, the layout of the interior may be a bit sparse when you first take a look, but when you look a bit closer, then it's not looking too bad. Very simple laid out here, hot, cold, easy for the temperatures. Your air conditioning is either on or it's off, and you've got on these pollen things that's supposed to be good for hay fever, I'm told. Now the seats, lovely leather seats, pretty comfortable actually, especially if you're going to be going on a long journey, but if you really want to push it to the limit, you might find they're a bit lacking in support. £24,000, you're getting a car that reacts well when asked to and is excellent for both motorway and country road driving, and it's just as much fun whether you're in wet or dry conditions. However, with increased competition from Peugeot's 406 Coupe, you can just shell out an extra £520 and you'll have the Pininfarina badge on your bonnet instead. I'm sorry, Nissan.
In case you're wondering, by the way, this is the Mercedes CLK. They're still quite a rare sight on the roads in this country. This is the 430 compressor model, which means it has a huge 4.3-litre V8 in avant-garde trim, so it looks very nice inside and out. And the cost? Well, perhaps this is why you don't see so many of them. In this trim with this kit, best part of £50,000. What are they doing in green? Join us after the break because Ian Royle is going for a mighty romp around in the enormous Tahoe.
Now in the States, trucks and sport utility vehicles like this outsell conventional cars. Why? Well, I'm not quite so sure. It's rather weird. Maybe it's because of a completely different lifestyle, more leisure time, or the need to have lots and lots of cup holders, of which in this, believe me, there are aplenty. But more about that later. one thing you have to say about the Tahoe is that it's supremely comfortable. You get these enormous leather seats that you just sink into. You also get all the gadgets that you'd need apart from the kitchen sink, that is. You get climate control in the front, separate climate control for the rear passengers, power seats, in fact, electric everything, because Americans are just so lazy. Now, the Chevy Tahoe is bigger in both width and length than something like the big Mercedes S-Class or even Audi's A8. So believe me, this is enormous. So I just wonder how easy it is to use and to get it parked in your kind of conventional car parking spaces that you'd find, say, at your local supermarket. With our congested, narrow roads, this could be a bit of fun. This really is absolutely huge. And will take a lot of manoeuvring back and forward to get it anywhere into the parking space. And when you're actually in the parking space, I wonder whether you can get out of the car. No. I think that one is a bit of a lost cause. Find somewhere else to park. Out on the road, you do get a very commanding driving position, more so than in something like a Range Rover, for instance. I have to be fair and say that the ride is rather wallowy. There are no changes to the suspension when they're shipped over here from the States. The steering is very light, and you'll find on your favourite country roads that the ride can be somewhat like floating on very choppy water. Does it roll going round corners? Yes. Now, General Motors claim that the Tahoe has unsurpassed fuel economy in its class, which makes you rather dread what the others will do to the gallon. Now, the Tahoe is the smaller brother of the legendary Chevy Suburban, which is even bigger than this, but identical. It's over a foot longer, you get more boot space. Now, recently in America, Ford brought out the Excursion, which is even bigger than the Suburban, but they won't publish the fuel economy figures. Safe to say, though, they're in single digits. So if you're looking for a big car, you've got a big family, you need lots and lots of space and seating for up to 7 people, this Chevy could be just the car for you. And as far as the cup holders go, as promised earlier, well, I've counted at least 8, which seems rather on the low side. So, can you realistically live with an American truck like this, the Tahoe or the Suburban? Well, bearing in mind it's 17 feet long and 7 foot wide, it's surprisingly easy to drive. It's very manoeuvrable, it's very comfortable, it's very thirsty, but it's not a bad looker. Will it fit in my garage? Definitely not. Neither, I doubt, in yours. It's very different, this, but I like it.
A glamorous location for the launch of an important car. In fact, Japan's best-selling car for 3 years running. It's the Suzuki Wagon R. Or shouldn't that be the Wagon R? Well, no, this is the new version. It has been thoroughly revised, so gone are those rather quirky Japanese boxy looks that really were lost in the translation. And we get this, a rounded, more European version. It's really rather cute. More, in fact, of a Wagon R. Thanks to the really surprisingly lofty driving position and a quite surprisingly high standard of fit and finish in here, it feels a lot more substantial than you might expect from first looking at it. And all that acreage of window and glass might make it look like something more suitable for growing tomatoes, but actually means there's no shortage of visibility to peer around you. Unfortunately, it also means you can be seen rather easily. Despite its tall and narrow appearance, the drive is not all rock and roll. It's really quite comfortable. The gearbox is precise and accurate, the engine willing, and the handling quite rewarding. This is crazy. I'm driving around Monte Carlo, one of the glamour capitals of the world, in this. There's people out there in Ferraris. It's embarrassing. Could be the wagon. Oh. It's the result of collaboration between Suzuki and GM, with the Vauxhall version being badged a Gila. The European influence is clear to see. Some of the wackier elements of the design have gone, and that includes the ridiculous towel rail boot handle, now replaced with a far more sensible item. Because we see so few of them in the UK, it's easy to forget just how popular the Suzuki Wagon R is on a worldwide scale. In actual fact, they've sold over 1.5 million of them. And that's a lot of R's sold. It may be small, but it's strong. Both safety and security have been enhanced. There's now an immobiliser and double door locks, so there's no danger of getting your arse swiped. It's not without its faults though. Whilst the rear headroom was designed around the giraffe, I think the rear legroom is aimed more at the gerbil. Wagon R. However, if you can forget its links with its lunatic predecessor, then I think the new look is genuinely quite appealing, which will make Suzuki doubly pleased because they've announced that last year they smashed through the magical 1% share barrier when it comes to market sales in the UK. Wagon hurrah! Anyway, my boat's waiting, so wagon hurrah.
The Daleks, Godzilla, Darth Vader, Dracula, Frankenstein, Hannibal Lecter. What have all these got in common? Well, one thing is, they're all monsters. Well, let me introduce you to another monster. Yes, you're right, doesn't look like one. It's a saloon car, and it's made by BMW. Let me say this again, this car is a beast, and one of the few clues to give it away is the badge at the back. Still not convinced? The only way I can prove it to you is to take it for a drive. Now, once you get behind the wheel and fire this baby up, the car starts to exert a certain force on you. It's almost subliminal. You can't feel it, you can't see it, but you know it's about to happen. The only way I can describe it is by calling it the Jekyll and Hyde effect. And no matter how mild-mannered, strong-willed or restrained you are, you will succumb. You will succumb. Hide. No, Jekyll. Hide. Jekyll. Hide. No, Jekyll. Hide. Jekyll. Hide. The M5 at first glance seems understated. It looks like a normal 5 Series saloon, but looks can be deceptive. There are clues throughout. Big wide multi-spoke 18-inch wheels, a slightly deeper front spoiler, and the quad exhaust tailpipes, all indications to its illustrious heritage. This car belongs on the open road. It needs to be driven. No, it begs to be driven, and driven hard. It's like a wild animal fighting to be released, and all you have to do is put your foot down and hear that engine roar. The performance is staggering. The 5-litre V8 400 brake horsepower engine will catapult you from 0 to 60 in about 5.1 seconds, if you can find a road grippy enough, while the top speed is limited to a mere 155 miles per hour. With all that power and a weight of nearly 2 tons, you need some stopping power. BMW have fitted the biggest brakes on a 5 Series to date, and boy, do they work well. I didn't know they were that good. Now, if all that isn't enough for you, there's always the sport mode. No, please, not the sport mode. By simply pressing this switch, the car takes on a whole new set of characteristics. It's almost like finding out the spotty boy next door's a stormtrooper for the SAS. The steering becomes heavier, the car seems more firmly rooted to the road, and the performance is even more responsive. Don't ask me how it's all done. All I know is you no longer have a beast on your hands, but a monster with a serious attitude problem. I really like is the way the mirror tilts down when you're reversing. It's to stop you hitting the curb when you're parking. That's nice, but what happens when you overshoot your exit on the motorway, which you will do in this car with the speeds it's capable of? I mean, it's going to be a real bugger trying to see when you're reversing up the hard shoulder. It's not going to be much use then, is it? See, it's this car giving me all this attitude. This car just inspires confidence. The steering is impeccable, acceleration savage in any gear, and you know you can corner with confidence with those big wheels firmly planted on the road. Oh no, I think I'm falling in love with this monster. I need to get out. I need to think straight. I've just got to get my breath back. No, I need to get out. Oh my God, I've got to think straight. BMW don't use the M badge on just any old car. The M stands for BMW's Motorsport department. There have been 2 previous M5s, both straight sixes. The last M5 was killed off in 1995, so it may have taken a while, but the wait was definitely worth it.
So why did BMW make this car? I think it's because they can. They just love a challenge to build the best performance saloon car in the world. Do you know, this car's not like a monster at all. It's like Muhammad Ali in his prime. Beautiful, elegant, fierce, knocking out all the competition. So watch out, you rivals, because this car floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. Cool. You know, I like that last bit, but you can't just say it's the dog's bollocks.
Don't let all the glamour fool you though, because underneath here there's basically an everyday C-Class, all dressed up in very nice clothes. And here's a handy hint for you if you get your CLKs mixed up with your SLKs. CLK Coupe, SLK Soft Top. Not difficult, and that's good because next week amongst the treats on Motor Week we'll be looking at the newly revised SLK for the first time available on these shores, finally with a manual gearbox. See you then.